Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria Q. Kane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. Let's get started with the story of the week.
All right, so this pregnant chick was at her friend's house just having a girls' night. They were all hanging out. She was pregnant, and unexpectedly, she started going into labor.
So in the article, the article's really interesting because the woman's basically saying that because she gave birth on this lady's couch, she didn't want to be friends with her anymore. And on top of that, she asked her to reimburse her for the cost of the couch.
Yeah, which, like, I think if you give birth on somebody's couch, so somebody had, I guess her original conflict, she posted on Reddit saying, like, does my friend have a right to be mad at me? Because I guess after she gave birth, the friend who owned the house where she delivered was like ignoring her, not acknowledging this new baby. And then when she went to apologize, she sent her this bill in return, basically being like, pay for my couch. And somebody commented on it and said, giving birth is like a crime scene. Of course, you should replace her couch.
All right. So here's my thing. You don't just sit there and like give birth. Like that never happens in you just it like a baby doesn't just fall out of your vagina, right? So there's a process and it takes a while. So I'm thinking that her water broke on the couch, which is completely possible. And they show photos of the couch, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
it
I
just
don't
looks like
know
it
if
was
those were actual photos of the couch.
okay. So the photos that they show in the article look like a tan color couch with a giant wet spot on it. So that would explain if someone's water broke because I know all of the videos I watched before having any of my kids, always you just expected to be standing, in the grocery store and then all of a sudden this giant like water balloon like gushes out of your vag all over the floor in front of everyone, right? But every single time my water broke, it was more of like a squirty pee thing that nobody knew was happening except me. So, but I do know the gush happens for some people. But if she went into labor sitting on the person's couch, like, why wouldn't she just get up and do it somewhere else? Like, it just that's not it just doesn't even make any sense at all.
I don't know,
It
and
doesn't happen like that. Like, it just doesn't happen like that.
I actually have this picture of you in my phone from years and years and years ago, 11 years to be precise, where you were about to give birth to Lillian and you were sitting on a trash bag for 2 weeks because you were afraid of
Well,
ruining the chair.
the biggest thing is that Gabe had just gotten a new truck when I was getting ready to have Lillian, and I was scared to death that I was going to, like, have this giant gush of fluid in his brand new truck, you know? So I would bring this black trash bag in the seat, and he always thought that was really funny. But, like, that would have done anything anyway, right?
I know.
But yeah, I think this story is just kind of weird. It I don't think she gave birth on the couch.
Well, no, they said she did because EMS came and supervised the entire thing and the delivery went smooth, so
At the house?
do
It
you
just
think
doesn't
it's
fall upon you like
no,
that. It's
do
just
you
like
think
it does.
do you think it's possible her water broke earlier and she blew it off, and then when she was at the house, she, like, was going like, she was having contractions and going into labor?
Yeah, but that's something that happens. It's not just uh, I don't know. I don't
I'm just trying to
understand
figure it
this.
out.
I just don't
Also,
understand it, and I mean, amniotic fluid could still have biohazard in it. I mean, listen, the bottom line is whatever fluid came out of her body on the couch, the lady deserves to get a reimbursement for the couch because the couch is a lot of money. And what are you going to do? Just dry it up and like you want to snuggle there with your boyfriend or whatever? Like, no, it's nasty.
I'm actually calling bullshit that birth can't go that fast because when you were giving birth to Lucia, you said, "Go to work, it's gonna be hours, blah, 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 blah." And 45 minutes later, you had a picture of her.
Yeah, but but I was in labor that day and I started with my water breaking at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I had contractions all day and didn't go to the hospital because they always send you home. So it was happening all day. I just waited until way too long to actually go to the hospital. But like, it's not just like you're sitting there watching TV and then all of a sudden it's like It's not like diarrhea that just like comes on and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to shit my pants right now. This has to come out of my body right this second. Like she could have got up and went to the bathroom or something. It's just whatever. And anyway, it's a funny story.
The bottom line is she needs to replace the couch. Like,
Yes.
regardless of what happened, you need to replace the couch.
I just think it's funny that the chick's like not friends with her anymore over it. It's pretty hilarious. It is gross, dude. It's like when somebody throws up in your car or some shit. It's just like nasty.
Well, I would I would give that person a couple weeks. If they just gave birth, they're probably going through a lot. But if the first time you talk to them, they're not like, oh my God, let me fix, like I would understand if a couple days or weeks went by and you were just so flustered by giving birth and having a baby and everything that it truly slipped your mind. But if you realize the person's mad at you and you're not like, let me reimburse, I'm thinking like a rug was probably damaged in this too. It's not just the pill. It's not
And
just the
if
couch.
she actually gave birth, there would be some blood involved, placenta nastiness. Like I don't know. All right, let's get on to celebrity news.
We had 2 celebrity deaths this week. So first we had Karate Kid star Chad McQueen. He was the son of actor Stephen McQueen. He has died at age 63.
He was one of the Cobra Kai guys. Do you
I never watched that show.
in the movie, the original movie?
Oh, I mean, I watched that movie years ago. I just don't like it. I'm sorry.
What?
I
You don't like
don't
Karate
like it.
Kid?
No.
What is wrong with you? It's like one of the best movies.
Honestly, I don't really like the 80s that much, like the pop culture in general. I don't like 80s music that much. I don't like 80s movies or TV that much.
Okay, I'm done with you.
Sorry.
I'm done with you.
I don't know.
He was the one of the blonde Cobra Kai guys in the first movie that he kind of had bleach blonde hair, and he was like, "Put him in a body bag." It was that guy.
Oh my God.
It's Steve McQueen's son. Which, by the way, I never really thought about how Steve McQueen died, but he had an interesting cause of death of mesothelioma. So I think we're going to do a celebrity death dissection on that because I haven't written about that much in the gross room, especially when it comes to a celebrity. So that's interesting. But his son, I mean, it just sucks. He's young. What was he, 63?
He was 63, so they were saying that he had an injury from 2020 that he never fully recovered. When I was looking it up a little more, the most information I could find was that he possibly had a fall, and that one news outlet was saying he passed away from organ failure. But I only saw that on one site, not a bunch.
Yeah,
so
but I mean, that
pretty
doesn't tell you
broad.
anything.
Yeah. So
I mean,
I don't know.
ultimately, I think everyone dies because their organs aren't working anymore. But I mean,
Yeah,
it's not specific to anything. But one interesting thing is that if you have an accident, let's say you fall and then let's say you become paralyzed or something like that, you could live for another 2 years and then die from complications of that. And that was from the original fall. So your cause of death could still be considered to be as a result of the accident, so that's probably what they were saying. And wait, who's the other one that died? This person?
Tito Jackson. So he was Michael Jackson's brother. He was also part of the Jackson 5 band. I was not super familiar with him. I did just write on the gross room about the incident that caused Michael Jackson to have his drug addiction, which was when he was filming this Pepsi commercial in the 80s and his hair caught on fire. And then, he had really bad burns to his scalp, and then they gave him painkillers and it kind of just spiraled downhill from there. But his brother has died at age 70. From a suspected heart attack while driving.
Like, you don't like, I mean, Michael Jackson is a problem, right? But you don't like that music. Come on.
I'm not I'm not gonna turn it on. I don't hate it when it comes on. I do really love Prince, however. I don't know what it is about that. When I worked at this bar in South Philly on Wednesday nights, it would be me and 2 other guys closing, and we'd always play this Prince playlist, and it was really fun because nobody would be there. It'd be like 3:00 in the morning. We just play Prince really loud. But then when you put on Prince radio, it always at some point gets really sexy and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is very sexy. So Tito, he was one of the brothers, and he's 70. He died of a heart attack. I believe that their mother is still alive.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously he's got 2 sisters. I think he has another brother that's alive too, probably. So at least um he had some kind of heart condition. I don't think it's anything dramatic. It seems like he was on a road trip and had to go to the hospital and died. I mean,
Yeah, and apparently he was actively touring with two of their other brothers, Marlon and Jackie. They were performing under the band The Jacksons, so that's
his name
kind of cool,
wait, his name's Jackie Jackson?
I guess.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't I don't know. People, there's like
I don't know all their names, honestly. Like, Jackson 5's amazing too, though, but that's, like, all my childhood stuff. I know you weren't born until
I
much
like their
later.
Christmas song.
Oh, God.
Everybody's gonna everybody's gonna riot against my hate of 80s pop culture. I'm sorry. I really like mid-century stuff, and then I like the 90s because I was born in the 90s, and it's just a weird overlap for me. It's so different from like the retro stuff I really like, and then the era I was born in. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, whatever.
All right. Lottie Moss, who is Kate Moss's sister, so she went on her podcast to give people warnings about using Ozempic, saying it was the worst decision she ever made.
This story is really outrageous. So, apparently she was taking Ozempic for weight loss, even though, get this, she weighed 110 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay? So that is it's so beyond not necessary and off label for that. I mean, it's not used for people. I don't know how tall she is, but 110 pounds is very light for no matter how tall you are, right? To be taking Ozempic especially. And then she was having all these problems with them and went to the hospital and found out that she was actually taking a dosage that was more for a person that was 220 pounds. So she was taking a double dose.
Yeah, so what happened was she woke up one day really sick. She wasn't able to keep any fluids or food down, so she goes to the emergency room. The nurse discovers she's not taking the correct dose. She ended up having a seizure in the hospital from severe dehydration, and it just kind of spiraled downhill from there.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with people, dude? For
I
real.
don't know. And Ozempic is the company that makes Ozempic is trying to reiterate that it's not technically approved for weight loss yet. And definitely somebody like her should not be an
But
eligible candidate for it.
there's
So,
other drugs in that class that are approved for weight loss, but it's not for weight loss when you weigh 110 pounds and want to weigh 105 pounds. It's ridiculous.
yeah, I mean,
That's like abuse of this drug, honestly. And she's lucky that she didn't get hurt. And I do kind of question some other things from the article, like her saying she didn't exactly get it from her doctor.
yeah, well,
What is
a
that
lot.
about?
I even know people that are getting it from not their doctor. Their neighbors are doctors and prescribing it to them. And they're basically saying she just overdosed on it. The dose was too high that made her really sick. I even know people that are taking the quote unquote correct dose that are getting very sick from it.
Yeah, I don't know. Just I mean, I'm glad that she's speaking out about it, but I just I'm so naive sometimes. I just can't even believe that a person that's this thin is already wants to take some medication like that. It's just how much weight does she need to lose?
Well, you could say the same for Kim Kardashian when she was trying to fit in Marilyn Monroe's dress. It's like even though there was speculation she was taking Ozempic to lose the weight, regardless if she did or not, she said she was doing extreme dieting and exercise to basically starve herself to lose like 10 or 15 pounds. And it's like, for what?
I just think I understand that, but that's just like a little different. Like she has a fat ass. At least she has fat that she could lose. Like this, it's like this woman's 110 pounds. It's out. I mean, whatever. The other thing is just like a completely other ridiculous thing. It's just, is this what all the people in Hollywood are doing? Just taking Ozempic so they could stay skinny?
But
It
they've
seems
been doing it though. Like I know
it used
everybody
to be
knows about it in 2024, but they've been doing these drugs for years.
yes, it wasn't called Ozempic. It was called cocaine, but that
No.
might be it. But wasn't she speaking in the article about this like heroin chic look that her sister was actually, I believe her sister made it popular. right?
So yeah, when Kate Moss was like at the peak of her career, there was this style called heroin chic, and she was kind of like the face of it, along with some other people. I think Winona Ryder might have been involved in it for a little bit too. If I'm remembering correct, that might be wrong. But anyway, Kate Moss was definitely one of the major faces of this heroin chic look. So actually last year I wrote an article called Ozempic chic when it started becoming more common knowledge that the celebrities were using this Ozempic, even though they have been using drugs for many, many years to lose weight, and they've been using Ozempic for at least 5 to 10 years that public does not know about. So
It's so ridiculous to me. Like, I'm just like, when you weigh 110 pounds, if you need to lose 5 pounds, you could do that in 2 weeks with just like diet.
but
Really,
why do it when you could take a
it's
shot
just,
and it does it for you?
it's just weird.
All right, so this next story is about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So last night the show premiered and there was a scene where Heather Gay went to Meredith Marks' house. They were talking about a procedure that Meredith just had done. So Meredith said she had a breast reduction for the third time because she has a quote weird medical condition that causes her breast tissue to continuously grow.
So this is actually a thing, and you're gonna think it's the weirdest name ever, but it's called gigantomastia. And it just means
Okay.
that you have, so normally you hear about women getting breast reductions all the time because they have hypertrophy, which is when there's an increase in breast size, and then they get this breast reduction surgery done, and it's usually fine. And that could be anything from, like, it goes happens when you go through puberty, or if you just get fatter, or it could happen as you get older too. But in this case, they have what would be considered to be more than 5 pounds of excess breast tissue on each breast. And if they get the reduction, usually a reduction works in these people too. But there's some cases, rarely, that it can continue to grow back even with the surgeries. They could also give medications and stuff too. Sometimes it's caused by something like a hormone issue or taking a medication that causes it, and other times they don't know what causes it.
Yeah, so she went on to say on podcasts and stuff that she wasn't exactly sure what caused it. She believed it to be hormonal. She said her mom started experiencing the same thing in her 40s. And on the show last night, she said she had originally started as a C cup and went up to a triple D, and then she got a reduction back to a C cup and then went up to a double D, and it just kept reoccurring.
Yeah,
So,
that sucks. One
yeah.
interesting note is, and I don't know if it's still like this now because I haven't worked in the surgical lab for some years, but when we used to work in pathology, we got breast reductions all the time, and we need to examine them because, just in case, God forbid, they cut out a piece of tumor or something out of somebody. There's like small pieces of cancer in that tissue that they cut off. So we look at it and we weigh it. And we were always taught in school that the weight was really important because that could determine whether health insurances would pay for that surgery or not. Because that could be considered like plastic cosmetic surgery. But in a case like hers, that she has a medical reason that this is happening, that should be covered by insurance. But I know that now it's like a lot of people are covering these procedures under insurance because it causes problems, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely interesting to me. I was under the assumption that she had breast implants like most of the women do, but I guess that's not the case. There was also this weird thing I want to say 2 seasons ago where she had this confessional look where it looked like she was wearing a chest plate and everybody was kind of questioning it because the way her dress laid on her body just looked so unnatural and it was a very bizarre thing. I'll send you a picture of it
Maybe
later.
she had the surgery and she was just taped up or something.
I'll send you the picture. It was very bizarre. She was wearing kind of a really deep V open across her shoulder top or dress and it just looked very bizarre and everybody thought it was the weirdest thing and it was just going around cuz they're like this looks so unnatural and I'm like you're saying I wonder if maybe she had surgery and it was her way of covering it up or something. I don't know, but
Yeah, I want to see that.
it sucks that she has to keep going through this though.
Yeah, it sucks. It's really rare though. So
Yeah. All right, back in March, news broke that Sean Diddy Combs' houses in Miami and LA were raided as he was under investigation for sex trafficking. So this week, he's been formally indicted by grand jury. He was arrested and denied bail. In the indictment that just came out to the public, they detailed that Diddy would host these gatherings called freak offs. Like, Are you not like, I mean, you should be embarrassed for being arrested and stuff, but you're not like, oh my God, that was so lame to
It's
call
so
it.
corny, yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, I mean, this story is, we shouldn't be laughing though, because it's not funny. But essentially, he would book a hotel room, fill them with supplies and sex workers. The supplies, which they detailed in the indictment, included narcotics, multiple AR-15s, and over 1,000 bottles of lube.
It's nobody knew this was happening?
Well, there's been rumors going around for a very long time that nefarious things were going on behind the scenes and nobody wanted to do anything about it, or maybe it just took the government years to get enough information to arrest him. I don't know.
Am I the only one that thinks that this guy always looked a little, like, off? You
Yeah,
know what I
I
mean?
mean,
Like, he don't look like he's, like, in the right mind, ever.
but you can't arrest somebody because they look off.
Because their eyes are too close together, you can't be like, "You look a little off, dude."
It's like what you say about Brian Koberger. Like, he looks very, very guilty, but he still has not technically been
I don't
convicted
care.
yet. So.
I have a whole theory that I could just, like, totally know what's going on behind someone's eyes like that, like, for real. Like, every single time I saw him, I was just kinda like, "Why does everybody think this dude's cool?" Like, he's just like, "Something's not right here." Well, I'm the only one that thought that? Come on.
I don't know, but they said after the freak offs, his staff would go into the hotel rooms, clean up as much as they could. He would then arrange travel for the sex workers and pay them in cash. The indictment also noted that he allegedly hit, kicked, and threw objects, dragged the victims by their hair. He was promising them jobs, bribing them, telling them they would never get anywhere if they didn't follow what he was saying or do what he asked, just overall abusing them. So
Do you think
it's
this is gonna end up being this, like, Jeffrey Epstein, like, crazy lots of other people behind the scenes were involved with this, like, high profile actors, celebrities, and stuff? I don't like, wasn't he friends with, like, J Lo and all these people? Like, he hung out with, like, all the most popular people. You mean that nobody was, like, wrapped up in that too?
I'm pretty sure J-Lo was dating him when he had this shooting incident in a club like years ago, and
Yeah.
there was, all this bad activity happening. I wouldn't be surprised if this turned out to be some Jeffrey Epstein type of thing. I mean, also side note, I want to say that Ghislaine Maxwell tried to appeal her sentence and they were like, I don't think so. You're not getting out, bitch.
I mean, listen, at least you have to give her, like, an E for effort. Like, if you're in jail, like, why not try? Like, you're not gonna not try.
Like,
Nobody
sweetheart, your involvement didn't help you, and then also trying to hide from police for a year really didn't help your case. So, like, you look really guilty when you're trying to hide out. I don't know.
I
It's like
I'm not sure that
unreal.
I think in cases like that, like, they're just like, "You know what? Let's just throw it and see if it sticks to the wall." Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know. But yeah, they're saying Diddy's currently facing at least 8 lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault, rape, sexual misconduct, and more. And he has officially now been charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
So he's in jail right now?
Yeah, and he was denied bail, so he's not getting out pending his trial.
Good. That's awesome. But
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, this seems like it's been happening this whole time. I mean, why now? But it's good that it's coming out at least.
Well, I'm thinking either like it was just rumors and they couldn't get any evidence to support it, or they were aware it was happening and monitoring it, but they just had to wait because they knew the level of this was so huge that they had to wait until they had the perfect amount of evidence to charge him. Because if you prematurely arrest somebody and charge them, you could lose the whole case
Yeah.
if you don't do it the right way. So I don't
He's
know.
guilty. I could see it in his eyes.
Oh my God.
Freak accidents.
In Washington, a mom and her son were walking on a dock along a marina. Suddenly, a river otter popped out of the water, gripped the child, and drug him underneath.
So river otters are apparently nasty.
Are
And
they?
I guess so. They have, like, a really powerful bite. They were saying, so they determine a bite of an animal by the pounds of pressure when it closes its jaw. And they were saying that a river otter, because it has to grab its prey and, like, pull it to the land, they were saying that it has, like, 615 pounds of pressure compared to a human that has 162 pounds. So think about, really, if you put someone's finger in your mouth, let's say, and bit it as hard as you could, it would hurt them really, really bad, if not partially amputate their finger, right? but if a river otter has, like, almost triple that amount of strength in their jaw. So, it's just that kid coulda died,
Yeah, I mean, and they
even
said
drowning, like, underwater like that.
yeah, and his mom said that he disappeared under the water for several moments. I'm assuming that's, not minutes because that's a really long time. But when he resurfaced, she was able to pull him out. When they were running down the dock to try to escape, the otter kept going after them. How scary is that? The otter bit the mother's arm while she was rescuing the son, bit the son. Thankfully, he survived and he was able to get treated at a local hospital. But this must have been so scary.
I know, right? And imagine I always have this fear that we're, like, near this water source, and I always say to the kids, like, "Don't fall in there, don't fall in there," because the last thing I wanna do is go in, like, a lake or a river with all my clothes on to have to go
Yeah.
jump. Obviously, you would if that happened, but you're just like, "But please be careful and don't do that." And think about your kid, just like, what do you even do in that situation? You would have to jump in and then you're fighting an otter. It's just weird. I just never would have thought that they were mean like that.
Well, it seems like these attacks are pretty rare. They said in the last decade there's only been 6 reports of otter attacks in Washington state, so it's not like they're happening every other day, but they're definitely scary.
They did check to see if the otter had rabies because apparently they can carry rabies. And they
Mhm.
also just anytime you get bit by an animal, you always wanna make sure you get medical attention because they always carry different bacteria in their mouth and even parasites and stuff that we're not normally used to seeing, but we can get infected with as humans, so it's always a good idea to just get, like, lots of shots if you have an exposure like this, but God, what a crazy story.
Yeah. This next one is absolutely horrible. So, these parents took their 18-month-old to a thrift store, and as they were walking around shopping, the child had picked up a backpack and was playing with it. They noticed that she put something in her mouth, immediately took it out, and induced vomiting because they weren't sure what it was, although it appeared to be melted candy. So, initially, she seemed like she was doing fine. They continued running errands and they went home, and that's when she became unconscious.
Yeah, so apparently they did testing on this thing that she put in her mouth, and it wasn't candy. It was Suboxone, which is a medication that's used to treat opioid addictions. And she had an opioid overdose and died.
It's really so horrible, and I was just thinking, like, they're saying there was negligence on part of the store for not checking the bag, and I can understand that, but it's also impractical with certain thrift stores and everything that are getting these mass donations to go through every single item and clean them properly, and, something as small as a pill could just be hiding in the lining of a bag. I mean, I agree that this is just a complete freak accident.
Yeah, it really is. And it's so scary because I've always taken the kids to thrift stores, especially when they were little and they wanted toys all the time. You're just like, let's just go to the thrift store because you could just, they only want to play with it for 5 minutes anyway. But you also could get cool stuff at thrift stores, like older clothes from the 80s and stuff where you hate, but it's just it's just so scary because remember we reported on a story that we heard months ago that those parents rented an Airbnb and the little baby somehow was able to get I don't know what it was, some kind of opioid inside of their mouth and they ended up dying from it. Um, it's just like this thing that you just need to be aware of now that if you're not in your own environment with your own stuff, that could just be sitting around anywhere kind of.
I mean, it happened so easily. Like a couple weeks ago, I had a horrible migraine. I have a Costco sized bottle of Advil. I dropped it in my bedroom. I thought I got all of it. I'm still finding a couple of them here and there every time I like move my end table or my rug or something. They just went everywhere. Things happen.
Yeah, and with this pill that this child took, it's kind of weird, but it is an opioid drug that treats opioid addiction. So you can overdose on it and especially I think the dad said he had tasted it to see what it was and he said that it tasted like sweet something. He didn't really realize what it was. And that's why he didn't die from it because he's an adult and the dosage would have been okay if he tasted a little bit of it. But for a child of an
Yeah.
18-month-old child, just so little, what are they, 20 pounds, 25 pounds? I don't know, just so small that just, it's so freaking sad.
All right, so around 7 a.m. on Sunday morning, police had gotten a call from these parents saying that their 8-year-old daughter had gone missing. So around the same time, calls started coming in about this erratic driver on the road that was swerving in and out of lanes on a major road. At the same time, the police went to the parents' house to try to, get more information, and a neighbor came rushing out of their house to say that their cameras picked up a video of this child getting in the family's car and driving away.
How does an 8-year-old know how to drive a car? I'm
That's
serious.
what I said. That
I
this
mean,
is the first
I
thing I
guess you would
thought.
be shocked because maybe I don't know. I've never said to my kids like, "Hey, go in the car and start it and see if you could start it." And you hear about kids doing this sometimes, like starting it and going in reverse and crashing into the mailbox behind their house. This kid got in a car and drove it 10 miles for 20 to 25 minutes, and she only hit a mailbox.
She was driving like absolutely crazy, swerving all over the place. I can't believe she only hit a mailbox, which is kind of good for an untrained driver, also to go that far. But the best part is where she was going
Target.
to get a frappuccino. And when
The cops showed up and she was drinking a damn frappuccino.
and shopping, like walking around the store shopping.
This is so, like, outrageous to me. I mean, thank God she's okay because she really
Yes.
could have gotten killed. I mean, just being
Yeah.
8 years old in the front seat like that could have killed her. But, I mean, think about this for a second. Like, how does that kid even know how to get to Target? Like, it's really cool kind of in a way. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean,
it's crazy to think that being in the car with your parent, that you just pick this stuff up, like where to go, how to drive, assuming that the parents didn't sit there and let this kid drive. I mean, this is a
well,
normal situation.
yeah, and I would say because I remember being a little kid and you being like, "Do you know how to get to Mom and Pop-Up's house? Do you know how to get to so and so's house in case there is an emergency?" Right? And I'm like, "I don't pay attention when you're dropping me off places. Like, I don't know how to get
No,
anywhere." So
you do though, and this is I always try to tell the kids this because this is why I'm kind of anti them having iPads in the car unless we're going on a super long trip. Because what when I was a little kid, we didn't have anything like that, and all I did was like sit in the back seat or whatever and look outside. And then I got my driver's license and I knew how to get everywhere because I was paying attention to where my mom went. Like we didn't have GPS when I started driving and stuff. There was nothing like that. So I just had to figure out where I was going and I knew everywhere because I paid attention to my surroundings. And the kids do too, because I do ask them and they'll say, like, just from looking out the window and stuff, they'll say, like, "Oh, aren't we near here? Aren't we near here?" Like they're paying attention. And it's really freaking interesting. Like this kid straight like what possessed this kid to do this?
I have many questions. A, what possessed her to do it? B, how did she, like how did she know how to get there? Was it natural from watching? Did she use the GPS? C, how did she have money to buy the frappuccino? D, nobody in Target was like, where is the adult accompanying this 8-year-old
Yeah,
child?
like the girl at Starbucks wasn't like or the person that was working at Starbucks wasn't like, "Where's your mom?"
Yeah.
The whole story is just so it's almost unbelievable. It's so outrageous. I'm glad
No,
she's okay though. And God, imagine waking up and your child being missing. That's scary enough. But they did know right away that the car was gone too. But I
yeah.
would never
Well, you
think
don't
that
know
that
what
was what
happened.
happened, right? Yeah.
You don't know what happened, and they're saying that she's not gonna get charged with anything because she's too young. I'm like, what is she gonna get charged with?
Well,
I honestly don't even think her parents should be charged
well,
with this.
they shouldn't if it's an innocent situation, but you have to investigate to see like what was going
Yeah.
on in this house. I mean, just think about though, the, like being at our age and retelling this story. Oh, when I was a kid, I was all over the news and I drove my mom's. It's so outrageous.
I like in my memory I have this memory that I guess is not true that Louis drove down the street or something in Mom's car when he was a little kid.
No, I mean, he definitely used to like because when both of us moved to the city when I went to Jefferson at first, right? I remember one time, it was hard to park on the street and everything because of the meters and the parking and everything, and I remember one time Pop telling Louis to go outside and move the car. But I think he was, like, 15. There's just there's a difference.
But he was also changing tires when he was like
Yeah,
5. So
and, like, Pop also, like, taught him how to drive. Like, this is an 8-year-old that we're assuming never has driven a car in her life. So,
Yeah.
just I mean, like, luckily it was a Sunday morning, right? So there wasn't much traffic or whatever. It's just kind of mind-blowing that this kid pulled this off, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
So speaking of outrageous videos like the one that we were just talking about, I have another video that I am posting in the gross room this week that is so outrageous, and it just shows this guy that is just looks like he's missing the top half of his head and just walking around. It's so outrageous. So the gross room's a great place for us to share videos and things. Obviously, you can't see a lot of that here. We can't even play some things on YouTube and everything because they're too graphic. But we do celebrity death dissections. Last week we did. What did we do last week? We had the 2-part series on
Diane Schuler and the car crash where she killed herself and 7 other people.
Yeah, so we just really dive into that investigation and see what we would have seen on autopsy and how to prove different things that were brought up throughout the case. So it's really cool. You'd really like it.
So visit thegrossroom.com for more info and to sign up.
Okay, let's get into true crime.
Back in February, these grandparents got a call from their grandkids' daycare that they had not been picked up by their mother, who is their daughter. So the grandparents picked the kids up and brought them back to the daughter's house. There, her husband said he didn't know where she was and that she would just, quote, leave sometimes. So they were obviously concerned. They weren't dropping it. So they were hanging out at the house for a while, trying to wait to see if the daughter came back. Nobody could get in touch with her. And the husband was acting like nothing was wrong at all. He made them dinner. Then he put the kids to bed. So, not letting it go, her father started snooping around the house, goes into the laundry room, and sees what seems to be her hair in a trash bag, opens the trash bag to find probably his worst nightmare ever, his daughter's head in the bag.
It's so sad and so
Horrible.
crazy that people do stuff like this for real.
Yeah, and there's many disturbing elements to this, but what's really hard for me is that they were saying earlier in the day the kids' playroom was right next door to this laundry room. So they were playing like a couple of feet away from their mother's decapitated head, just laying in a bag.
So did the dad see any other evidence of a crime that was committed? Was there blood anywhere?
So it seems like when he found the head, he ran out and got neighbors to call the police. And when they got there, the husband said he had killed her in self-defense. But like, when you kill somebody in self-defense, do you cut their head off? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And, it just kept getting so much worse. They said, according to the autopsy report, the body was dismembered in the laundry room with jigsaw, power tool, and some other gardening tools and a knife. They said several body parts were then reportedly, quote, pureed with a hand blender and dissolved in a chemical.
That's so sick.
It's so disgusting.
And you have to feel bad for even the people that work at the medical examiner's or coroner's office, whatever's happening there. Like, to just have to examine a person that's someone's mother, like, in that condition, it's just so disturbing.
Yeah, it's really horrible. And they ultimately determined her cause of death was strangulation. And then there was also signs of blunt force trauma. And then obviously we know she was dismembered and everything. They clearly think that there was a mental health issue going on with the husband, that he went so far to do this. And they're still not really sure why he did it.
I feel so bad for her poor dad. Like, how do you ever survive after that? And the worst part is that assuming that him and his wife are now going to be the children's parents. So it's like they already have to mourn their mother's loss, their dad going to jail, and now the grandparents that have to raise them. The father has been through this. I mean, both the mother and father are through trauma, but the father saw it. I mean, what would you even think in that situation?
I don't know. And I think a lot of times when people die, they're not necessarily seeing them dead, especially in a horrific manner. So when you're remembering them, you could remember their face in their alive state. But, I can't help but think this guy is only going to flash back to that traumatic image of his daughter's head.
Yeah, I mean, you don't ever want to see it is one of the most disturbing things to see in real life. I've seen it a few times, is when someone has their head cut off. And the only time that I've seen it is in real life is from accidents. and you just look, and it's so disturbing to see that in real life. And then to see anyone, I didn't know the people that it happened to, you know what I mean? But imagine your child. It's just terrible.
Yeah, so she had been the 2007 winner of Miss Northwest Switzerland. She had 2 children involved in this. It's absolutely horrible. They again think that the husband, or he's saying he did this in self-defense, but their prosecutors are saying that he shows a lack of empathy and cold-bloodedness and has just, was trying to cover it up. So of course he seems very guilty.
Yeah. I mean, how many cases of self-defense do the people puree they're the one that they killed? Come on.
Exactly. Like, you can say it all you want, but like somebody wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, in the Czech Republic, a man was trying to persuade his estranged wife to get back together. So she ended up visiting him and they had sex, but afterwards she said, "I'm still not getting back with you." And that really pissed him off. So he tied her up with duct tape, pulled her panties aside, stuck a firework in her vagina, and then lit it.
Yeah. I mean, this is just so sick. And then, so of course, she had this major trauma to her vaginal area. She was bleeding all over the place. And he eventually untied her, and she was begging him to call paramedics to come help her. And he didn't. And she claims that he just threw her a mop and was like, clean up the blood. He also claims that this was an accident.
Yeah. He said they were just like getting freaky and it went wrong and he had put the firework in her vagina and then he lit a lighter to see if he could see it and that's when it accidentally detonated and went off.
Like what that's like the craziest lie ever. And he just wanted to see, like, she the whole story is a kind of exactly the same as it went down, except the part that he was just like, it was dark and I couldn't see, so I just like ducked down there with a lighter and it accidentally lit on fire. It's just, okay, bro, that's what happened. But think about when you see this damage, we especially around 4th of July time on Instagram and definitely in the grocery room, we just show like so many pictures and videos of people that blow off their hands. It's usually 100, or let's say 90% of the time it's hands, because sometimes it's facial injuries as well. But you see the damage it does to a person's hand. Like, imagine that being in your vagina and the injuries that you would sustain because of that.
I can't imagine that.
I
can't believe she didn't die.
I mean, they're saying it's in this story, they're calling it a firecracker. And I don't know if there's a difference because, they have those like little ones that aren't that crazy. Like, was it something little like that? It definitely couldn't have been like a bigger firework, because that would have probably killed her. If one of her vessel, like if one of her major arteries was affected by that explosion, she would have died. She really would have bled out from that. So I'm thinking it was something a little bit smaller. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
But
mean,
not that that makes it any better. It's
no. Regardless, it's horrible. He's been sentenced to 18 years in jail, which
good.
rightfully so. I mean, this should be considered attempted murder.
Yeah, I mean, 18 years in jail is good but this is in another country, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like in America, it's like that's a lot for a person to serve for attempted murder, right?
I know, you get a little slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Maybe like
Probation.
Nothing's happening here.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous.
Maybe banned from buying fireworks, but that's about it.
Yeah.
All right, medical news.
A group of Japanese and U.S. scientists have won a Satirical prize after discovering that mice, rats, and pigs can absorb oxygen through their rectum.
This is kind of a funny story. So there's this Nobel Prize that they give out called the IG Nobel Prize, and it's kind of a funny fake thing that it's real though. It gives scientists that are doing experiments that are kind of funny and like off color, and this one is they were doing it's actually really good research because they're trying to see if people with respiratory disorders could somehow get oxygen in their body another way. So they put this oxygen rich fluid inside of someone's anus and it absorbed through their anus, and they were able to get, well, not through a person. They experimented on pigs and rats, but they put it inside of the anus of these animals, and they saw that they were able to absorb oxygen and have oxygen exchange through their anus, and when they were having respiratory issues. So it works, and that's kind of cool to think about that, but it's so weird. Such a weird study, so that's why it won this award for anal breathing.
Yeah, I mean, that terminology, anal breathing, is kind of really disgusting, but I do like that these awards exist because, like, some people in the science industry might not take this seriously because it is kind of ridiculous, but they're being seen. They said these awards are for, like, this weird research that can make people laugh, but also make them think really deeply about something. So I think it is cool that they're being honored for it.
Yeah, it's cool for sure. I didn't even really know that was a thing, that these awards, but now I wanna go back and see what they were because there's probably, like, a shit ton of good material for this show anyway.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, I didn't even think about that. There's probably really good stuff in
Yeah.
there. Okay, medical tourism is on the rise. So first, can you give a brief explanation as to what that is?
It's just, I mean, there's nothing really to explain. It's just when you live in America and you wanna get a medical procedure done, most of the time, so most cases of medical tourism are from people that are going elsewhere for dental work. Then the second thing that's most common is plastic surgery, and then there are other things like IVF treatments and other obesity treatments and stuff, like, they're the most common ones that people get done. So they get on an airplane and go to another country to get done what they were gonna get in America cheaper.
Yeah, so I guess the person writing this article was highlighting this because there was an Olympian who was over at the Paris Olympics and then she, started getting recognition for making all these TikToks that while she was over there, she was getting free dental exams, vision exams, and even a pap smear.
I do know that other countries do that, but do you think that that was just part of the Olympics thing?
Yeah, I
Or
could definitely say I think like I don't know this for a fact. I would think they would get routine testing to make sure they're eligible to compete even right up until their own
'cause I'm
sports
just
compete,
wondering,
but
like, let's say I go on vacation to what country was this? If they're saying in Paris this
yeah, in
happened?
France.
Okay, so
So,
let's say you go on vacation to Paris next year, right? And I need new glasses. Like, can I just walk in a place and be like, "I need new glasses?" Like, I just feel like I don't think every can Americans just do that?
I don't know.
I don't it just doesn't seem right. Could just maybe because it's just because I just paid $500 to get new lenses popped into my old frames. So that's what's going on in America right now, but you could see they used all these different examples in this article. Like, this one woman needed this dental work done worth $40,000, and she ended up going to Costa Rica and getting the same exact treatment that she needed for only $10,000. And I know somebody that actually did that and went to Mexico and got dental work done for significantly cheaper.
Oh my
I would
god.
be like, I don't know, like, I feel like I would just be scared, but if I knew somebody that went to somebody, I I mean, people live in other countries and get medical work done all the time, and they survive, and it's perfectly fine, so
Well, actually, friend of the pod, Dr. Kelly Colleen, was interviewed for this, and she had a really good quote I wanted to pull. So she said, "The key to finding a wonderful doctor is being able to check credentials, check facilities, and knowing the local rules for how doctors practice. The problem with going out of the country is that we're not familiar with those systems. Unless you are from the country with an intimate knowledge of how the system works, it's a risk." And I thought
yeah.
that was a perfect way to
And
explain it.
another point that they brought up in the article too was the malpractice insurance situation. So let's say you go to another country and you get something done and there's negligence and you get hurt, like really hurt, that you can't do your livelihood anymore, or you're disabled for the rest of your life. They don't have the same protections that's in this country. I mean, not that it always happens in this country either, but in theory, if you get hurt during a medical thing and the person was negligent, you could sue them and get money for your damages and stuff. And they were saying, like, in other countries they just don't, there's not that kind of liability, you know what I mean? Like, you're kind of
Mm.
taking a risk. But
Yeah.
when when it comes to money, like, people don't have money, I don't, whatever, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the American healthcare system is definitely messed up. I mean, I have been complaining about this in particular in private for a long time just because, it's hard to navigate. It's like taxes in America too. It's like this overly complicated system, and they make it so hard to understand. And maybe in high school, instead of teaching you how to like make cookies, they should be like, this is how you do taxes, this is how you have insurance, and this is what it means to be an adult, because I don't think it's that simple to figure it out most of the
I
time.
think and this is what I learned from writing my book, okay? So I used to be under the assumption that, oh, other countries have free healthcare. Like this lady saying, like, oh, I just got glasses and I got a pap smear and I got all this in one day and it didn't cost me anything. And it sounds really great, but I don't think it's quite as great as is that. There's other things, and I'm gonna back up my claims because of this. Because when I was writing the book, a couple different people that I interviewed that lived in other countries would have to wait, and even a girl I've been talking to on Instagram for a couple months that's having a medical problem, which would have gotten I mean, yeah, she has to use insurance and pay for it in this country, but it would have gotten handled within 2 or 3 months. She's been going to the doctor for, like, 7 or 8 months trying to get the same thing handled because there's no sense of, like, urgency as much with things, it seems. Um, the one girl that I wrote about in the book who was having a pulmonary embolism showed up to the emergency room, and she had to, like, wait in some line in order to be seen and all this stuff, and it's like, it seemed a little bit different than the care that you receive here, where something like that, in most cases, would have been considered a medical emergency, having, like, a young woman of reproductive age with one leg huge, swollen, and on birth control kind of thing, like, high candidate for a pulmonary embolism, things like that. So I don't know if it's like the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I think everybody, like, you can have people over here that think the health industry is perfect, and most people think it's messed up. I'm sure you have people in other countries that think it's perfect and some that think it's messed up, Everybody's experience is different, but
I'm
I
I'm
think
curious. I am curious about it though, because if we're all living on the same world and making money and stuff, like how does Paris have money to pay for every one of the people that are there to have healthcare? Like, where does the money come from?
well, I think somebody's paying for it, which also brings up the point, like,
Do
if
they
you're
have higher
going
taxes than we do? There's
well,
no way.
yeah, I don't know, and that's what I'm wondering, like, if taxpayers are paying for their universal healthcare over there, is it fair that American is then going over there and getting it for free as well? So, I think that's an interesting point, but I think what Dr. Colleen said is, really important, that you have to really do your due diligence and research what you're doing and where you're going.
I feel like that's probably the case, because if you go, like, let's say you go to Italy on a trip and your appendix bursts, like, they don't care that I have a health insurance.
No.
Like, they you know what I mean? Like,
They care about treating you so you don't die,
yeah,
like.
so it is interesting. I'm just trying to see, like, their system of, if they pay the same amount of tax as we do, then, like, why don't we have extra tax money to pay for that stuff? That's what or to help, at least, to assist with
Because
this. I
why
know.
do
Why
that
am I
when
even bringing this up? Like,
you're
why?
gonna cause a riot in the comments section about this. But on the note of Dr. Colleen, make sure to go back and listen to our external exam with her. It's a really
Yeah, she
awesome,
was
and
cool.
she's a really good plastic surgeon, and she had a lot of cool things to say. So, all right, this next story is so upsetting. This is another story out of Wildwood, New Jersey. We had that one last week about the woman getting run over by the police cruiser, or not even a cruiser. It was like a full blown pickup truck. So, a woman posted in a Facebook group that her daughter, who is a quad amputee, went into the ocean, and because of the strength of the water, her prosthetic legs got detached and swept up in the water, and they now can't find them.
Yeah, it's such a crazy story, because she has this plea that she wants her daughter's legs back, which is sounds crazy to hear a headline like that, but those things probably are a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the warning is as far when I was hearing that this woman, or the daughter, was a quad amputee, my personal feeling was that seems kind of dangerous to put someone like that into the ocean anyway. Just because, especially at least in New Jersey, like, it could get really violent, and it's hard for a person that has all of their limbs to stand up sometimes.
What is a quad amputee? Because I don't really know what that terminology
I
means.
mean, I just assume that they don't have any arms and legs.
Okay.
That I mean, quad 4, that's what I would think. So do you understand, like, this person's
Yeah.
essentially a torso that has prosthetic limbs. It
Yeah.
just seems kinda dangerous to bring them the pool for sure, but the
Yeah.
ocean seems a little it could get nasty, like, I don't even like the kids going in there, to be honest, so
It's just sad though, because you're just trying to live your
no,
life and touch
I
the
know.
ocean
I
water, and
know,
then
and, like, the person's been through enough. I mean, I don't know how they became a quad amputee, if it was a congenital anomaly or if it was due to an accident or some kind of a medical issue, but the person's been through enough. They wanna enjoy time at the ocean, I get that.
so on the rare chance that anybody listening has any information about this, you should contact the North Wildwood Police Department with any info.
Okay, other death news.
So in Raleigh, I know I said Raleigh last time and that really got some people up in arms. So in Raleigh, North Carolina, police had received a call about a deceased person at a grocery store. When they got there, they found the person dead in the walk-in freezer section of the store.
This was in a Food Lion.
Yeah.
So, I guess they'll just bring the person to the medical examiner's office, coroner, whoever's down there, and do the autopsy and figure out what happened. I mean, it could be an accident. They could have got locked in there. It could have been the guy had a heart attack and died in there, or it could be someone murdered him and stuck him in there. There's just
Well, they said in a more recent report that they don't suspect any foul play and they believe that a medical emergency was
Oh, okay,
at
cool.
fault. So
Yeah. So the
it
autopsy will show that.
and we have talked about before other cases where, you know, like working in a restaurant, I definitely worked in a couple of restaurants where the emergency release lock on the inside of the freezer didn't work. I got stuck in one for like 2 seconds and it was scary because I'm thinking, what if you're there totally alone? You know, managers or chefs sometimes are just there by themselves doing work and you're not anticipating getting stuck. And what if you don't have your phone on you or something? It's horrible.
It was in the bit like, I guess it was in the big freezer in the back where they keep the back stock and everything. Is that what
Yeah, like a walk in.
Yeah. It was a freezer though, not a fridge?
Yeah, freezer.
Oh, interesting. That sucks.
So I mean, this could have happened if they're saying it was a medical emergency. He could have maybe had a heart attack or something in there, and nobody went in there for a while.
Yeah.
Like you just don't know.
Yeah, that's a
Could have
shame.
happened anywhere. But all right, let's get on to questions of the day. Every Friday at the @Mother Knows Death Instagram account, we put a story up that's up for about 24 hours, and you could ask us whatever question you want. First, everyone knows smoking impacts the lungs, but how does it impact the blood vessels?
So, smoking is just if you haven't gotten my point enough that it's the most terrible thing that you could do for your body ever, but when it comes to your blood vessels, there's a couple different things. So, first, you have nicotine that is in cigarettes. And when you smoke and you have nicotine, it causes vasoconstriction or it causes the blood vessels to kind of pretend them blood vessels are like a straw that are open and it causes them kind of collapse on themselves or to squeeze together, right? And that constant squeezing of the blood vessels can not only limit oxygen from getting to the organs, but also it could harden the arteries and cause them to come not be so elastic and move easily, which is what you want them to do. And then furthermore, the chemicals. So when you burn a cigarette, that's why they're so bad because it puts off other chemicals, like terrible ones, carcinogens and things like that. And those chemicals could affect the lining of the blood vessels too and cause plaques to form on the inside. And it just increases your risk for heart attack, stroke, any kind of cardiovascular event. So, it's just really terrible.
All right, next. What happens when someone dies of, quote, old age?
I hate that one so bad. Nobody really dies of old age. If they say like if an old person dies, there still has to be a pivotal event that causes them to die. So it might be usually it's cardiovascular disease. They have a heart attack or they have a stroke or something like that. Um all those kinds of things that just happen when your organs are getting older, but there's no such thing as just like, oh, you're old and your like clock just shuts off. There's like some event that causes it to happen.
Yeah, didn't they say the queen died of old
Yeah.
age? Like
And
on her death certificate?
it says it on her death certificate, which in America that would never fly. But apparently in the UK, when I posted that in the grocery room, a lot of people that lived over there said that that's okay there. But like I think in America, we're trying to be more specific because you try to categorize, like, what's causing people to die, and even, my grandmom died when she was, like, 98 years old, and you would say, "Oh, she died from," or she was 99 years old, died from old age or whatever, but, like, something caused it to shut down, whatever it was.
It is an interesting thing. I feel like it's been dwindling, like, in the press. People haven't been saying that as much, but it definitely was going on for a long time where
Yeah.
people were just accepting that as an answer.
I mean, if you're 99 and you die naturally at home, like, I mean, technically you die because 'cause you're old, right? But, like, there's still an event that turned it
Yeah.
off.
Alright, last, do you have any style icons?
Um, I do. Do you?
Yeah, I would say it changes with, just I people change, so my style changes over time. Right now, I'd say, a lot of people tell me I look like Selena Gomez, so sometimes I look to her for, like, haircut inspiration because we have the same shape head, and if she has a haircut, I know I can normally pull
Yeah.
it off.
Both have huge heads. You know what? You wanna hear a funny thing? So, Maria, the desk I'm sitting at right now, sometimes Maria uses my headphones for other things that we're doing, and so yesterday, she was sitting at this desk, and I came today. Every single time I come after her, I put the earphones on, and they look like they would fit, like, I don't even know, an elephant's head.
Well,
They're, like, opened as big as they can go, and I have to, like, stretch them down.
first of all, F you, and if you're watching YouTube, you can see the difference because we have the same exact headphones, so mine are open a little wider than
A
yours.
little, like, 4 inches wider between
Alright,
both
barely.
sides.
So I usually look to her for haircuts because we have the same shaped face, so I could tell what will work well with me. I also really like the way Taylor Strecker dresses. She has her own podcast.
I just
I
had
think
a heart attack. I thought you were gonna say Taylor Swift, and I was like,
um
"What?"
she has arguably the worst style I've ever seen for a person
Yeah.
of her stature. So Taylor Strecker, I really like the way she dresses. I think like as I approach my 30s, I'm gonna start leaning more into that. And then last is Brynn Whitfield from Real Housewives of New York on the new cast. I think she dresses really cute and like slightly retro and amazing. And then Casey Musgraves because she really dresses pretty retro, and I love that.
Yeah, I think that I would consider my style to be mostly, like, preppy, kind of, Jenna Lyons is, like, my old all-time fave best dresser if I could
Yeah.
dress like her all the time. Um, she's on a Housewives too, but I don't watch Housewives, but
Well, you knew her before
I
she
knew her
was on
before she was on the
Housewives.
Housewives because she used to. I don't know what her position was at J. Crew, but she's always been. I don't know if she's a model or just, like, a socialite, whatever you would consider her to be, but she's just got really cool style, and my favorite. I'm not usually a fan of, like, a specific actor, but what Winona Ryder wore for the one of the Beetlejuice premieres was, like, my ultimate dream outfit, that Chanel jacket with the tulle skirt.
Oh, yeah, that
That's
was
like
a really
that's
good
like
look.
100% my style, so but I don't know how she normally dresses, but that particular look, I love, like, Chanel style. I just don't have a Chanel purse, meaning, like, my wallet. My wallet doesn't, allow for that. If it did, I would wear, because I do love the Chanel style, like, we just get, like, the Saks, catalog at the house,
Yeah.
and I always look at it, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so cute," and then it's like, "Oh, this jacket's $10,000," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that's never happening," but I love it, like, Jackie O style, so good.
Well, yeah, and that like, I also love Jenna Lyons, but sometimes I have a hard time looking to somebody like her for fashion because we just have such different body shapes, so it's hard for me like, I will be obsessed with an outfit she wears, but I could not wear that at all because 'cause I'm short, I'm stumpy, I have hips, like, there's just
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely built different than me because she's taller. I think she's 6 foot or over 6 foot tall, but she's just very straight, and she's thin,
Yeah,
and I'm the same. I'm very curvy and I'm tall, but just like
yeah,
the way that she puts together casual and fancy and just like it's just good. And that time at J. Crew, like she styled all of it back. That was like 2010 or 12 or back then. It just was so good. Like, and of course, I was in school still and getting done school and just had no money to buy any of the stuff, and now she doesn't work there anymore, and it's depressing because I wanted every single outfit.
I know. Her line was so incredible.
Yeah.
It was so good.
It really was.
All right, so if you guys have a shocking story, don't forget to submit it to stories@motherknowsdeath.com. Also, thank you for everybody that participated in the Giant Microbes review giveaway. All the winners have been notified. We had some really good submissions. One of them I just want to read because we said if you guys wanted one in particular that you could, tell us why you wanted it. So I think this one person got confused that we were giving away a clitoris and not a uterus. So she wrote, this was so incredible. She wrote, as a 50-year-old empty nester having the best sex of my life, I need the clitoris. I'd love to put it as a gift to my husband on our 25th wedding anniversary, thanking him for finally finding it. Took him years.
Oh my God. That's so great. She's definitely deserving of the uterus. It's kind of close. You got there.
Yeah. So we were getting submissions like that, which were incredible to read. So those were fun, and the reviews were awesome. So we're gonna try to, throw some giveaways in here and there, try to figure that out. So get you guys some cool stuff.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.